All right, people, let's continue where we left off. This is a series called SideBling.com. This is for a project where people will be able to go to a website, enter their skills and hobbies, and it will spit out exactly what they can do to monetize said hobbies. And we're going to be using Cursor and Claude Code, and we're doing the full design development process. So it's not all AI. We're using our skills as designers. I'm going to be teaching you how to get next level input or output out of these LLMs, which requires some other skills. So make sure to watch that first video on how we design this logo and the rationale behind it. And now make sure to check out the description wherever you're watching this video to gain access to the Figma document right here so that you can follow along. It's very important to follow along. Don't just watch and be lazy. You're going to learn so much more. So anyway, we're going to copy this entire frame, and then we're going to go into the page UI UX right here. We're going to paste that in. And this frame right here is going to be our desktop frame for designing our desktop version right here. So what we want to do is bring this in and scale it down probably to a size right around there. That size happens to be 137 by 60, no, 126 by 85. And we want to give this a little bit of a tag or a slogan. Monetize your hobbies. Now that font is Enter, size 16. I think we're going to do maybe semi-bold for that. Probably this is a good size right here. And we're also going to give it a color. Instead of white, we're going to grab the background color and make it slightly lighter, kind of like a watermark. Then right-click, flatten it to convert it to vector. Hold Shift, select the logo, hit Control-G, and then change Group 1 to Logo SVG. There we go. Okay, so far so good. Now we're going to have a very simplistic nav menu items over here, so Home. Except we are going to increase the font size on this one to about size 22. There we go. And with that selected, like I said, it's going to be super simple. We're going to create a component. Right-click, Create Component. And before we do that, let's double-click into there, and we're going to add a typography style. So real quickly, when it comes to designing in Figma, you don't have to add styles. You don't have to add variables. You don't have to name layers and stuff. But for this process, you do, because we're going to be using the Figma MCP server, which acts as a bridge between Figma itself and the code editor. In this case, will be Cursor. And you need to provide that extra metadata to the LLM in order for it to accurately as possible translate your design in Figma to whatever it outputs in the browser. Very important to do this stuff. It's more work, but it pays off in the end because you get a better result. So we're going to add a text style here. We'll call this nav item. All right, now we have nav item. Also, colors. You need to save your damn color variables. So we're going to click plus right here, and we'll call this, just call it white color. There we go. Now we're going to duplicate that, Control-D, hold Shift, drag it over to the left, and then select both of those, and we're going to place those into an auto layout. Auto layout is also very important because it's like Figma's version of CSS layouts, essentially, and that also is communicated to the LLMs in terms of how to structure that stuff. So that's looking good right there. And again, we could just take this and duplicate it and update the type, whatever. We don't need to, though, in this context. So what we'll do now is move this over, take both of these elements, hold Shift selecting them, and we're going to add an auto layout around those as well. And that right there looks pretty good for the sizing. Next up, the center portion. This is the pattern that you see most ChatGPT wrappers use, and it makes sense because you have a text field and you have a call to action. These are the main things that you want people to use your service, right? So we make it front and center. So we're going to hit Frame or F. Left click, drag out a big container for both the text field and the button. We're going to give this a fill of the background color, except slightly lighter. So that color code happens to be 00A160. We want to add that as well. Rather, click right here, click plus, and we're going to call this panel BG color. All right. We also want to give it some rounded corners. So if I zoom way up, we bump this up, maybe to like size 15. There we go. Guess what? You see this little icon right there? Oh no, I went away on the camera. There we go. Fuck, annoying. You see this right here? We want to click apply variable, yes, to even the corner radius, because otherwise it will guess probably, unless you tell it explicitly. So we don't want to have to tell it and have a huge prompt. So that's why we do this stuff here. So now we're going to say, hit plus, and we're just going to say, I guess we'll say panel radius, corner radius. Hit create variable. All right, so that's looking good there. Now we're going to duplicate this, Control D. And this is going to be the actual text field. We're going to give this a stroke, and the stroke is going to be this color, except slightly lighter, even still, right around there. That looks good to me. Let's add that sucker. We'll just call this text field stroke color. Now, one thing that's real important is if you take a look at the outer container versus the inner container, specifically in relation to the corner radius, you don't want to have the one that's nested inside of it have the same corner radius. It needs to be smaller. It just looks way better and it makes more sense. So for instance, if we take this, we have to unlink or detach this variable right here. And then we're going to scale this down maybe to like 6. There, now it makes sense. You're going from large to small. Okay, this as well we will add. We'll just call this inner corner radius. Great. This is too tall, so I'm going to take both of these and just hold Alt and scale those down just a bit. And then I'm going to take the type tool, hit T, type in there, and we're going to say, what is an interest or hobby that you enjoy? That size is actually pretty good for the type, so I like that. So if we click on it, we'll see we already have it attached to a style. Detach that. I think we can go a little larger than that. So let's go up to like 26. I think that's good. Let's take everything here, maybe slightly larger. Pull this out a little bit more. Now, we want to take where it says frame 4. Let's go ahead and start focusing on naming our layers. This is the text field. This right here is the CTA container. The text field needs to be inside of it, by the way. All right. CTA container, we want to select that, and we want to choose auto layout. There we go. And then we want to take text field, and we add auto layout as well right here. But we don't want to center the text on the horizontal axis. We want to align left right there while keeping it centered vertically. All right, so that looks pretty good right there. We can kind of take a look at this stuff. Let's see what the padding and white space, like this stuff, is also important. So if we reduce this, say to like 21, that will be better. But we could just do 21 all around. And we also want to add that stuff. We can do the vertical as well to 21. Oop, no, we don't. We'll leave that at 33. So now we want to take both of those values, hover right here. I went away again. And we want to specify, hit plus. We will call this one text field margin LR for left right. I'll copy that real quick. Create variable. And then another one right here. So plus text field margin TB for top bottom. I don't know why I added an O. All right, create. There we go. Okay, great. Now we're going to take this text field and duplicate it. And by the way, this needs to be a horizontal stack. Increase this. We have some fixes, obviously. Just hang with me. This is going to be the actual call to action button. So if I double click into this type right here, we'll change that to show me the money. We're going to double click this, make sure this is centered for the auto layout. And then we're going to detach the fill. We're going to make this our white color. So go to libraries and choose the white for style. The text itself is going to be attached to our libraries. Oh, not the panel BG color. We haven't created the primary color, which is our background color. So we want to attach that to a new variable. We'll call this primary color. There we go. I know it's a lot of setup work. Select our text again. Now we can choose to add that to our primary color, which is right here. Now I also want to adjust the type here so that it's not size 26. It's more like, I'm trying to get an idea of what I want this to be. I think size 18 and make that bold is good. And then we can add that here to a style called CTA type. There we go. And then we'll drag this in for the size. And then I do want to add a little bit of a, here, let's get rid of the stroke. We don't need a stroke on that. I do want to add, real quickly, a little bit of a an icon. So right click, go to plugins, go to manage plugins, and see if you have the Iconify plugin. I already have it, so it shows up here in my recents. If not, just add it. And we're going to add this little, just do a search for money, and then you'll find this if you scroll down. We'll add that little cash sign right there. And then change the selection color to libraries, primary color. All right, so now if we drag this out, we're looking at the behavior of this. One thing we want to change, notice we have different heights here. We'll fix that, but also up here, notice how it's like align left. We can align center all this stuff. So now we need to take a look. The reason there's a difference of height here is we have different padding values and also font sizes, and also this element right here, which in the preview here, it's not too big of a deal, but we can just hold Alt left click and scale that up to match it just for our purposes. But now if we scale this in and out, this is the behavior that we want as much as possible to be replicated in the HTML and CSS. So now we're going to go ahead and center this. You can use your center controls. This is going to be a little bit higher because I do want to have cards at the bottom. So again, we have to go through each one of these and make sure we're attaching the variables in places that we need to. So if I start with CTA container, we can see we don't have variables attached to the these properties right here, the left and right padding values. So 15 and 16, this could just change to 15 as well. So if we click here, we already have one that's 15. That's panel corner radius. We can actually use that for the inner white space because it's the same value. So panel corner radius, there we go. That's looking good. The panel BG color is attached. We're going to take our text field, take a look at that. That's looking good. Panel BG color. Text field stroke color, this is all solid. The type itself, we didn't attach this one to a variable, so we're going to add a new one. I'm just going to call this headline. It's not a headline really, but either way, that'll work. Taking a look at this. All right, it makes sense to take your time with this stuff, trust me. I know it makes for a longer tutorial, but all right. I like reading romance novels. I'm just doing a little example for people down here, and we're going to go ahead and disconnect that style. This will be like size 16 in regular because we don't want it competing too much with their primary text right here. This will be a floating label, by the way. Now that I scroll out, I think we can make this a little bit beefier, like larger here. Now, one thing we could do is notice how I made that larger and these things didn't respond to that. If we select the text field and go to height, we can do fill container. And that way it's more responsive, fill container. And then this element we can just make a little bit larger by default. try to find that right perfect size. I'm not going to get too anal about this. All right, so I like reading romance novels. Now we want to go ahead and add this into an auto layout, this element and this element. All right, so with those both selected, choose that, upper left. Let's see how it works. We scale this in. This is still working. That's good. And that's fine right there. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the next section, which is the final section. At the bottom, I do eventually want to have cards. So what I'll do is, let's see, let's take this text field, copy that, paste it, drag it out, and we're going to have little cards down here, but we're going to have to make some adjustments. First, I don't want to have a fill, so we're going to get rid of the fill, but keep the stroke. All right, then we're going to go ahead and take this, which has auto layout, upper left, double click into here, and the width of this right here needs to be a fill container. There we go. Now we also need to adjust something about the headline property. So I think it would make sense to detach this and then adjust the line height to something that makes a little bit more sense. And this here is going to be a panel for showing what other people have entered as a prompt up here, along with a way for them to click on it and then view the results from the LLM. That way they can kind of see what the service is about. So for instance, I like to find broken things and fix them. That's like the worst prompt ever. But now we can do this and make sure it behaves it like that as much as possible. And then what we'll do is make it a little bit smaller, this type. So, you know, we could do like size 22, adjust this a little bit. And then once we're happy with the type, we'll add that as a card title style, card title. Okay. Now, one thing I'm looking at is because we replicated this and we have different padding around, let's just detach that one and make this one, this variable, so they're both set to that variable text field margin left, right. That's fine right there. Now, we could probably make this a little bit smaller, by the way. We're going to have one more element. We're almost done, by the way. Left click and type 11 business ideas. By the way, I know I just screwed up everything. Let's change this to a vertical stack. Put this sucker underneath. Right click. We can, let's see here. Let me drag this out actually. Put this up here. We're going to detach this. This is going to be small, like size 14. And we are also going to just make that auto. There we go. And then we're hit frame, wrap it around it. So we can see frame 4. We'll change this to tag container and give it a background color. The background color will use this panel BG color. So with it selected, fill panel BG colors right there. And then we also want to have a little bit of a border radius in there as well. So if we bump that up, probably just a size like 2, I think that would be good. Add that. So we'll call this, oh geez, I went away again. I keep on hitting a shortcut that makes me like hide. It's so annoying. I need to fix that. Anyhow, this is going to be called tag corner radius. We're going to put this inside of there. Then with this selected, we want to change this to auto. That way, when we scale this around, it's going to stay to the bottom, which is the behavior that we want. All right. So now I'm zooming out to kind of get an idea of the scale of things and how large these cards should be. So if I start this card like right here, again, before I continue on, I'm going to click on this, make sure everything is added to variables and styles as much as possible. This is good. Oh, the white color, we need to change that to library white. Same thing with this down here. This will be library of white. And also add this to the type. We'll call this tag type. All right. And then looking at this panel, we're looking good for all this stuff. Add an auto layout, by the way. Make sure that's centered. And there we go. This is looking pretty solid. So now if I duplicate this, we can get an idea of what this looks like. Like duplicate, 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 duplicate one more time. Select all those. And then what we could do is like, this could be like a little scrolling marquee of maybe like 20 different prompts people have entered. And then people will be able to click on them to bring up the UI that shows the response of the LLM. And that is looking pretty solid. So now if we take these, we can add these into auto layout as well. And there we go. We have our 3 sections that are now ready to rock with the LLM. So the next section, we're actually going to, instead of just continuing to design the additional screens, I don't want to spend too much time in one area. And I want to show you how you can jump back and forth between Figma and development actively. So this is going to be a good spot to stop this tutorial. In the next video coming up here next week, we will, I'm kind of looking at things I want to change already. Like I want to adjust this white space a little bit. That's okay though. For now, we're good. We can always make tweaks as well in code. But in next week, we're going to focus on taking this into Cursor and Claude Code. And actually, I'm going to show you how freaking cool and how close it's going to knock this out based on all the work that we just set up. Because typically, you wouldn't be able to do that without the MCP server. So anyhow, hopefully you enjoyed that. Make sure to check out DesignCourse.com. I have full project follow-alongs like this and many more. And I will see you all very soon. Alrighty.